Hi, my name is Tobias, and in this video I'm comparing Chord Prism to Scalar, Captain Chords and Instacord. So I make lo-fi beats and also some house and techno, and I'm not a piano player, so I'm 100% reliant on DAWs and also on MIDI plugins. So I spend way too much money on, all those I just mentioned. I have some notes down here. I don't know exactly how to do this, but just give you a quick rundown first. So, Scalar. Scalar is a MIDI plugin that has lots and lots of scales and chord presets. Has also a few built-in sounds, so you can actually hear the chords. And of course, it can export the MIDI, you can drag it out into your DAW of choice. You can also set it up so that it triggers another MIDI VST track, and you can hear whatever sound you want that way. A little bit involved, but works really great. And one of the best features with Scalar is that it doesn't just have chords or scales, it actually has, like, everything is sorted and categorized also by feeling and emotion. So if you want to write a song and you don't know what chords to use, you want to write some nice chord progression, you can like choose, okay, is it a happy song? And then you can go for something that is emotional, happy and uplifting, for example, or something that is sad. And you just, you can just pick chords or scales first and that fit the emotion, and then find the chords that fit whatever melody or chord progression that you have in your mind. So that's really nice, and that's what I use it for mostly. Instacord is another MIDI plugin, really nice as well, a bit different. Instacord also is something that doesn't have any sounds, so you need to set it up on a MIDI track. So it doesn't work in all DAWs, especially not Maschine or SeratoStudio or other DAWs that don't have like MIDI routing in that way. Instacord has basically all the chords and scales, but the cool thing is that instead of just playing chords, you can use two hands, and you use one to trigger a chord, but you don't hear anything. You use your other hand to trigger if you want to play the entire chord, like 3 notes or 4 notes or 5, or you can play single notes of any given chord, or you can also strum them. And you can have full control if you want to strum the first 3 notes and you want to strum them fast in the up direction, or you want to strum them medium or slow and in whatever direction. And if you want to strum like the first 6 notes in a slow fashion, like something like that, you can control that live. So it's really nice to be able to play that live. So what I usually do is I save the chord triggers in my song, and then of course I don't hear anything even though I press play, but then I can use my other hand to play like on the drum pads or on my machine to actually trigger, if I want to play the whole chord or just one note or strum the chord. So it feels much more like actually being creative, playing a song and something like that. So that's really great. However, it doesn't help you with finding chord progressions. You just have to pick a preset, and if you like it, you can use it, or you can buy also sound packs or MIDI chord packs, so to speak. So if you want to make jazz, you can buy a jazz chord pack, or if you want to make EDM, you can buy an EDM chord pack or a lo-fi chord pack. So so you pay for the program and you have all kind of scales and chords, and then you can pay for add-ons to have chords and scales that fit to a certain style. And of course you still need sounds like VSTs or something. Captain Chords is maybe the originator of this concept. They started with a different name first, which I bought originally, and now it's a plugin that you can use, and it's actually several plugins, so quite good. First you start with a chord plugin, pick your chords, then you can add on a new track, a melody plugin, and the plugins talk to each other. So in the melody plugin you can just really click in your notes, try playing them a little bit, and it will already work with the chords you already set. And then you add another instance of that chords plugin or chords bass, Captain Bass or whatever it's called, and you can put in a bass that is already corresponding with the chords you put in, and so on. So that is really nice. The only downside with Captain Chords is that it needs constant internet connection, which isn't the problem if you're in a studio. I like to use my laptop, and depending on when there's not a global pandemic, I usually have quite some traveling on the bus and even boat to get to Oslo to work. So I use my laptop to make music on the bus and on the boat. I can't because I don't have constant internet on my phone. So Captain Chords doesn't work for that type of scenario. That's where Chord Prism comes in. Chord Prism kind of combines everything, plus has some unique features, and that's why it's currently my favorite. So one of the killer features of Chord Prism is that it is a VST instrument that can host other VST instruments. So if you're using a DAW like Maschine or SeratoStudio where you can't route MIDI tracks, all you need is Chord Prism, because it scans all your VST folders just like any DAW would, and you can just play any sound you want. So that is really cool. And also it kind of takes the best of all these other plugins and puts it into one. So for example, if you have the first instance of Chord Prism where you actually choose your chords, of course you can customize them and use any scale, quite flexible. Almost like Scalar, but not quite, but almost. So definitely absolutely good enough. And you use any sounds to play the chords, because you can use any VST, awesome. Then you add a new track with a new instance of Chord Prism, and they talk to each other. So the next one already isn't just synced to the key and scale, it already knows the chords that you've put in the other instance. So if you want to play a bass, you just press the buttons to play a bass instead of chords. So it plays the bass note or the first note or whatever note of you choose from the chords you've chosen in the other instance of Chord Prism. And so on. If you then want to add another track with a melody or something, you can just do that, put a melody or a lead sound on it in a different VST, and the chords are already there, and you can choose if you want to play the first note of the chord or the second or the third or the fourth or the fifth or whatever. And it also has different ways of mapping that, so you can actually keep your finger on one key if you want to, and just press the same key and it always will play, for example, the first or the root note of the chord, even if the chords are changing. So that makes it really easy if you have like something like a drum pad with only 8 triggers or 16 or something. It's all mapped up, like you don't have to actually use a piano to play that. But of course, if you want to change that, you can. So if you're more of a traditional piano player and you want to use your fingers more like that, you can. Totally fine, no problem. And another thing is that Chord Prism has a built-in arpeggiator, whatever it's called. And it basically works just like playing the notes or the single notes or the melodies or the bass. So you can mix and match if the arpeggio goes up or down or random or which notes it uses, and you can map it either that it is like fixed to your piano roll, or like I said, it's fixed to the actual button on your keyboard or piano or drum pad, so it's really easy to use. Even if you change your mind later on, you don't have to update and re-record stuff. So that's another nice feature to have. And finally, here are some other important little takeaways from Chord Prism that are really, really good. So, for example, you don't have to export your MIDI into your DAW's piano roll unless you want to. You don't have to, it just works. A second cool thing is that if you change your chords in your root track, in your chord track, in your first instance basically, then all the other instances automatically update, just like they would in Captain Chords as well. So, no problem there, Chord Prism does that. Whereas Scalar and Instacord, they are kind of locked to whatever you have actually played and recorded into your DAW. So if you change one instance, it doesn't talk to the other instances, and then you suddenly have to move or re-record all the other instances. So there's a lot of extra work, but Chord Prism and also Captain Chords, they talk to each other, really nice. It's really interesting and really fast if you decide to change something. It's awesome. Instead of relying on your DAW's piano roll or having its own built-in piano roll like Captain Chords, Chord Prism obviously allows you to play notes live, and if you have the dynamic chord scale mapping thing that I just tried to explain, if you have that turned on, you can obviously just make music, you can change your mind later, change the scale and the key, and all the instances get updated. It's much more hands-on music making and much less mouse clicking, and then if you change your mind having to like move notes in the piano roll up and down. You can work that way you're stuck in your ways and you just want to work like that, but you don't have to. It's really, really nice. I really enjoy the like more hands-on music making approach and not so much hands-on technical stuff, mouse clicking. Another thing to be aware of is that the interface is actually rather small. At least it doesn't fill as much of the screen as like Chords or Scalar or the others. So some things are sometimes a little bit hard to see, and you can right-click on almost anything and change stuff. So it all works great, but yeah. But again, usually you don't have to look at the screen once you've set your chords. You can just play and make it all like bass and melody, and all instances, they just work. But yeah, that's a little maybe a downside. And again, finally, I can't stress this enough, it works offline. You don't have to have constant internet connection like Chords, which is always connected to the Chords servers. This one works whether you are in your home or on the bus or outside, wherever you want to make music and you have a computer with your battery, it will just work. Great, I like it. So my conclusion is this. If you use Chords and you don't have a problem with it, you don't mind being online all the time, then there's really no reason to upgrade or cross-grade or buy Chord Prism. But if you use Scalar, Instacord, or use Maschine, or MPC Beats, or SeratoStudio, and you've kind of outgrown the chord limitations that all these softwares have, then Chord Prism is the ideal thing to buy. Because to me it seems like Chord Prism is pretty new. I think it came out in 2020, and they've just basically taken a look at the current state of all MIDI helper plugins and taken like the best features of each and combined them into one plugin that is easy to use and rather small and lightweight on your computer as well, and has all the best features. So I really, really recommend it. I like it. I'm not an affiliate or anything, so I wish I was. But yeah, try it out, use it. I guess you'll love it.